Hello everybody. So I got into a conversation the other day with someone about tools and what it is that I use and how I use and blah blah blah. And there's some other tool videos out on the internet. Flint Knapping Tips made one years ago. That was really cool, showing all his tools and all the different things that he uses them for, and so on and so forth. But how this conversation came about is we were watching a different video about something else, completely unrelated to flint knapping. And the guy in the video mentioned about when you start off in a hobby or in a trade or a career or something, whether it is as a mechanic or maintenance or even you name it, anything where you're hands-on and you need tools for it, a plumber, electrician, you name it. When you first start off, you don't really have a clue of what it is that you need or what you're doing or anything like that. And as time goes by, you start buying stuff and adding to your toolkit, and then you end up buying stuff that you never use. You end up buying something that you're only going to use once ever. Stuff like that. It's very interesting. The conversation we had was very kind of eye-opening because it just shows so much the similarities between something like flint knapping and then something modern that you use modern tools, a hand drill, saw, screwdrivers, whatever. So when I started flint knapping, I started with copper. I was only copper bopping, copper pressure, and I enjoyed it. I got okay, like I wasn't doing too bad, but there were certain things that I wanted to do with my flint knapping that I fast realized I was just not going to be able to do with copper. There were certain things that copper is really good for, and there's a place for copper within the flint knapping. 100%. I'm not pissing on copper at all. But for me, what I wanted to do is I needed to learn the abo tools. So when I started with the abo stuff, I didn't really know what I was looking for when it comes to antler. The antler that I used was very iffy. It would crack, break. It just didn't have any strength. It would be real spongy. So as time went on, I started learning what I needed, and with really good guidance from friends of mine like Marty and John and a whole bunch of other people that I spoke to over time, even people that don't flint knap necessarily but have knowledge when it comes to this stuff. You start learning how things need to be. So when I first started my shaft punch technique, like the same that I learned from Marty anyway, I had just a wooden dowel that I got from Home Depot, even though he said 100 times in different videos, don't do that. But I used it, and I used it with some success, and then I actually got this one, and I modified this thing. Like, you can tell how thick it is down here and how thick it is up there. And I would modify it by scraping at it and changing it and all sorts of stuff, just to where it is basically now, where it's got quite a bit of flex in it. And I really enjoy this one, but it's limited for me in what I can do. So when you start getting familiar with your tools, which is also something that Marty mentions a lot in his videos, is you start realizing that your tools have limits. The more you use a tool, the more you realize, well, hey, I can't do this with this tool because it's not going to work. So I have to either modify my tool or change it up and get a different tool. So that's why I modified this one. So I have flex in just a certain area. The whole thing doesn't flex. It only has flex right here where the rope is wrapped around. And I actually did that as a way to create like a little bit of a grippiness to it so I can hook my leg into it in a certain way. And even now that technique I've changed completely, so I don't do that anymore. Then this is walnut stick that flexes a whole lot more than this, and it's a little bit thinner. It just handles differently. So I use this one for my buffalo and for the wood punch primarily. I will sometimes use my little punches on it, and like this one, little tine punch, but primarily this one's for wood and for buffalo. And then I've got this one, which is apple. This one's really thin. It's really flexible. I mean really flexible. I don't push that in all the way, but anyway. So this is basically just for finishing work. So I use my small tine punches on it. This one's my favorite one, even though it's a little bit on the bigger side of things. But I just roll it around and use all the little bits, little sticky outy bits, and I love this thing, even though it's really big. For small work, I can punch some really fine flakes with this. Flakes that look like pressure flakes. So that's why I've got 3 of these now. So they all have their own purpose. This one I use primarily just for my big punches, big flakes, stuff like this. When I want to punch something big. Okay, no, not that one. That was a Hammerstone. But there's one. Big overshot flaking, that sort of thing. These are my 2 abraders. I use this one a little bit for Hammerstone work. Like, that's actually from nature. That wasn't me. But this little knobby bit here, this edge here, I'll use a Hammerstone. This I'll use as a Hammerstone. This sharp edge around there, I'll use this little knobby end. And then as you can see, using this side here, this side up here as an abrader. I'll sometimes use this part. I'll just change it around, whatever I need, for what purpose I need it for. I'll just pick a corner, pick a sharp end, like move my platforms, move my edges with that sharpness in there. Tick it off like real quick, start over, make a new platform. This thing, this is how thick it was. This is where it is now. Like, I've just abraded this thing all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. In some of my videos you can see this one where I'm using it, and this is still my favorite. This thing is so grippy on the rock, it's just awesome. And then my strikers, where I used to use this striker for everything, big and small, I now use this for smaller stuff. Like if I'm making Montels, I won't use that. I'll use this on the late stage flaking, because that just heavy, hard, slow flakes with that. This one is quick, sharp little, just very, very much a difference between the two. Like slow, fast. This one works a lot better when I'm going super thin and getting nice thin flakes just to run the surface. That's my go-to. My buffalo punch, my 2 tine punches, and then this one here is a like initial reduction punch. I use this one for like just quick work, and I also use this one lately because I haven't been doing a lot of it for smaller direct, but it's the curve in it is weird. It's just not right. That one I use now for direct as well. Like I'll use this little tip up here and this edge around there for direct. I mean, it's alright, but it's limited, and that we'll get to those in a second in my pressure flakers. So this is just a Delrin rod with antler on this side and buffalo on that side, black buck pressure flaker. I've got buffalo, just a stripper buffalo that I use. I like this one nice and long because it's got a little bit of flex to it, and I don't want to push too hard because it'll break. So, and then I use this end for some stuff as well. This is my scruncher, edge turner, hand pressure flaker. This one does a lot of stuff. This is a little pressure flaker that I use for notches and stuff sometimes, and whatever else. A little bit of edge work depending on what I'm doing. Horse rib, very nice. I love this thing. This thing is amazing. It's a horse rib, and I can get real thin with it and it still holds pretty strong. My Hammerstones that I use, even though I've got a metric shit ton of Hammerstones, these are primarily the ones that I use on a day-to-day basis to nap with. So a big spalling one. And then from hard, these two down here are fairly hard. This one's like medium to soft. These two are, this one is hard to medium. This one's medium. This one's medium. That one's soft. That one's soft. That one's soft. I use that one there for obsidian and stuff. I'll use that one for obsidian. This one here is pretty hard, but it's actually a nodule. It's actually a flint nodule that's got the cortex on it, and I'll use this for this is Oregon rock. I'll use this one for Texas stuff and whatever else, like really hard shirts. This is a really nice one. I actually like this one a lot, like up here and stuff. And then my pressure flake hand pads. This is what everybody sees, I guess, the most, is this one here. It's a pretty hard one, like, I'm not gonna lie, but I've learned how to use this one and still have my flakes run, even though this is a fairly hard pad. I've just gotten to a point where I know my tool, where I know where I have to hold it and how I have to hold my point to have flakes run without stopping or breaking when they touch the pad. And then I also have this one that I'll use in there sometimes, just when I'm doing certain things, when I want to lift the point up a little bit, like an anvil almost. This is also what I use as leather support sometimes. I'm sure in some of my videos I've used this thing as leather support. There's another pressure flake and leather support, and then soft, really soft leather support. Those are some new tools that is on loan. Like, those do not belong to me, but a friend of mine, John Kiernan, said that I can use those, borrow them, and this is my next step in what I'm doing, is I want to learn to do direct antler percussion, because right now I suck at it. I'm not accurate. I don't really know what I'm doing yet. So he said I can borrow those. And the reason I'm borrowing those and not getting my own is because I don't know what I want and need. And these things cost a fortune. Like a billet like this or like that one can cost you a lot of money. So I want to be more familiar of what size and what I'm kind of looking for, ballpark, so that when I finally go to buy my own, I know what to buy, I know what I'm looking for. With a Hammerstone, that's different. I mean, you can just pick up a Hammerstone, that's too hard, chuck it back, don't use it for something else. When it comes to that sort of thing, especially nowadays, when you have to pay for everything, it's just a little bit different. This one is kind of a good sort of medium to high one. This one's useless, so I'm hoping this one and this one's going to be, this one and this one's going to be like a ballpark of where I want my low end for smaller stuff to be. That one is, even though it's fairly small, it is heavy as frick. This one is huge. So this and that will be for big, like, initial reduction. That one there I will use probably for like mid reduction, getting to late stage, and then I need to figure out what I want for my late stage reduction and like final flaking, pattern flaking, that sort of thing. So it's probably going to take me a while to get into that, because in the meantime I'm still going to be doing Hammerstone stuff, I'm still going to be doing everything else, but I really want to start learning that. So I just wanted to make a quick video of my everyday toolkit looks like. This is only a part of it. I've still got ivory tools that I use a lot. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff that I use and do, but this is my everyday toolkit. This is, if I'm going to make something and I can only take this, then I'll take this, and I can probably get pretty well sorted through anything. So I hope this was fairly interesting. Anybody has any questions, please ask me in the comments, I guess. I don't want to sound like a YouTuber, because I'm not. But hope this was interesting. I hope this helped somebody that doesn't know what to look for. And yeah, have a good day. Thank you.